Hello. So, hi everyone. Is my audio now there? Sir, can we get the PDF after the session? Yes, yes, definitely you will get. Yes, now it's the audio and video is fine. Okay, great. So finally the audio and video is fine, and yes, you will get the PDF after the session. Okay. So I hope everyone is doing really very well, and audio and video is now very much clear to you guys. So with this we start the session, and yes, the PDF would be available for the daily decodes. It's available every day. That is fine. I am just asking which one. This one, nah? Okay, that is what I'm just asking. Okay, so the PDF would be available after the session. So we have just shifted to a new place. I mean to say a new room. So we sorry for the delay because of the technical glitches which we were having, and I hope now everything is clear to you guys. Yes, great, great, great. Okay. So let's start with the session. Today is 14th November. So welcome to Daily Decodes at Insights IAS, where we decode the Hindu newspaper. A lot of important news has come today, so we would be covering that. So let's go to. So before we move, the important quote for today would be. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and this was said by the Chinese philosopher of Taoism, Lao Tzu, and he says that when you are on a mode mission or whenever you are starting for anything, though it will look like a long journey, if you see the UPSC civil services examination, now you have got prelims, then you've got mains, then you've got interview, and for that matter, if you see any examination or any mission in life, there are multiple stages to it. So for every 1,000 steps, you need to take the first step, the decision you took that you want to give this examination, or for that matter, anything in life. It can be related to sports, it can be related to business, it can be related to any other examination, competitive exams, or for any particular event you are preparing. Most important thing is to decide and take the first step. Once you take the first step, then whatever happens, if you need to crawl, if you need to walk, if you need to run, you will have to move forward. So with this positive thought, let's move towards the important news of today. So the important news are Supreme Court puts brakes on the bulldozer culture. Now this bulldozer culture was very much prevalent in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. So Supreme Court has taken a standing on it, and might is right. That is what Supreme Court is saying, that rather than going democratically or through the constitution or through the legal recourse, the states have been going through might is right. So we'll understand this particular important news which is coming, and then inaugural US India Indian Ocean Dialogue, and also we'll talk about ICET, that is Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, a very important topic. Then Indian middle class tightens its belt, squeezed by food inflation. Food inflation is very high, and urban class which buys a lot of FMCG goods. FMCG is fast moving consumer goods. Now the urban people buying these fast moving consumer goods, the urban people are buying these FMCG goods now very less. Why is this happening? Because of inflation, and what could be repercussions of it on the Indian economy, we'll understand that. Then in UPSC prelims, we'll understand Article 142 and delimitation, because there's a wonderful article which has come on the perfect cocktail of layered discrimination. If delimitation happens, then the difference, or rather the inequality between the southern and north Indian states would increase, and the Hindi heartland would increase in terms of coming Lok Sabha election or in terms of delimitation. So we will understand delimitation, we will understand Article 142 which is related to the first news, we will understand all these things which are very important for today's lecture. So welcome everyone, let's start with the first news. So this is Supreme Court puts brakes on bulldozer culture. Bench says state including naked display of might is right. You must have seen these kind of pictures coming from UP, MP, Rajasthan, in which a particular community or in which a particular people were targeted, and that is not what I am saying, that is what Supreme Court understanding and what they have said, that there is a malified intent in intentionally targeting some people or community, and the Supreme Court is saying that if they are wrong, there were many other people from other communities which are wrong, which have done similar things, but action was not taken. So bench states indulging in naked display of might is right, issues binding directive that includes 15-day prior notice to occupants. Okay, so let's move towards this. So first of all, let's understand the prelims part of it, or the factual part of it, or the static part of it, and then we'll move towards news. So Article 142. What is Article 142? Wherever state is going wrong, Supreme Court, this is specific to the Supreme Court jurisdiction, it can come. So this is exclusive to the Supreme Court and can be used to fill any gaps left by the legislature, be the state or the center. So Article 142 gives Supreme Court the power to make orders to ensure complete justice in any case or matter pending before it. So if there is any lacuna by legislature, specifically in this might is right is case in which bulldozers are using, because when it comes to justice, it goes to Justice Department, or for that matter judiciary in Indian respect, and then it goes to the Indian judiciary. So that decision on justice would be taken by the courts, and that decision cannot go to the executive. That is exactly what Supreme Court is also talking in the news, and most importantly, the power is exclusive to Supreme Court and it can be used to fill any gaps left by the legislature. So complete justice, and this Article 142 is specific to Supreme Court of India. Now, there are two important things which I'll also cover, due process and suo motu, because these two words would also be used in the article. Then principles of natural justice, there are three major principles to that we will also cover. Now these due process of law, then comes to Article 142, then suo motu. These are certain words which have continuously been asked in UPSC examination. If you have seen in the recent daily decodes, I have been covering these polity important static parts, because they can again and again come in the examination. If you remember, I had also covered locus standi and all those articles which keep coming, like Article 30 we had covered, Article 28, Article 29, we would be covering them besides the news, so that with the news part you are also covering the static part and it's beneficial to you. So what is due process? It's very simple, legal principles. So government, the government need to respect a person's legal rights and treat them fairly before they take their rights, before taking away their life, liberty or property. So it needs to give due, they have to go by due process of law, they have to go by legal. It cannot just jump in and get bulldozers and demolish someone's house until unless they have proper evidence for what they are doing and what is the reason behind it. So before taking away their life, liberty and property, it also ensures that law is not arbitrary and unreasonable, and this is exactly what Supreme Court has said, that in this bulldozer activity, due process of law was not taken by the state. Second is Supreme Court of India had taken suo motu jurisdiction in case. If you remember, in September 2022, let me go for the exactly with the date, September 2024, yes, September 2024, it had done this, the power to initiate action on its own without a petition or interest being brought before it. So Supreme Court took this case suo motu, rather it was not depending on any petition or someone coming with a petition in Supreme Court that this is going on, please see into this case. It itself took the case, seeing the importance of the case. So power to initiate on its action. So there are two important things, due process of law and suo motu. So let's move to this. The Supreme Court puts brakes on the bulldozer culture, and what is it saying? That in a landmark judgment condemned the practicing of demolishing properties of accused individual without due legal process. And that is why I have covered this, that government was doing it, be it the MP government or the UP government or the Rajasthan government, but due process of law was not being followed. And what they said, a naked display of might is right. Now you know it that UPSC has a tendency of using these sentences in the mains paper, that they will write might is right. What do you think about it? This can come in a essay examination also and UPSC mains examination also. And then they will ask you to elucidate on it or explain on it, or they will ask you to critically analyze these statements. Now when Supreme Court give these kind of statements, it's important that you understand the inherent and the deep nature of these statements. Very beneficial episode for aspirants. Thank you, Praduman. Thank you very much. Audible? Okay, great. Okay. So the case stemmed from the petitions against the state of Uttar Pradesh, MP, Rajasthan. I've already told you. Court extended suo motu order to bar such demolition across India on September 17, 2024. And that is how the proceedings on the case have come, and the finally judgments are also coming. Now let's move to the important part. What Supreme Court has said, we understand. So using the extraordinary power under Article 142, this article and this jurisdiction only goes to Supreme Court. High courts cannot use it, neither the district court. This is specifically to Supreme Courts. We have already covered in the static part of the lecture when we started today's lecture. The Supreme Court issued several directives to ensure accountability and adherence to principles of natural justice. So what are the principles of natural justice? Supreme Court is saying when it came to this bulldozer activity, principle of natural justice were not followed. So there are three major principles of natural justice. First is audi alteram partem. Second is nemo judice in causa sua, and third is right to a recent decision. So we'll also understand what is the English meaning of it. But if you go and understand, this were not followed. So in audi alteram partem, hear the other side. For example, if government also needs to hear the side of the people, for that matter in this case, if you are demolishing someone's house, you also need to hear his side before you demolish him. That means you need to send him a notice, and this is exactly what Supreme Court has said in this case, that you need to send a notice to someone if you are demolishing his house, his or her house. So hear the other side. Second, nemo judice in causa sua, no one can be judged in their own case. So you cannot be judged in your case. For example, government decided you are faulty and government has taken that decision. So you cannot be judged in your case. So there has to be a court who will look into the both sides and then will give a decision. That is why Supreme Court is saying that you need to follow the principles of natural justice. And third is right to a reasoned decision. Now in this context, Supreme Court is saying that in the future cases, principle of natural justice has to be followed. And this also becomes a very good prelims question. They can put three things: audi alteram partem, nemo judice, and right to a recent decision. They can ask you to match the following, or they can change the names and ask you which one of them is right, which one of them is wrong. Okay, so please remember this. Okay, please close the door. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so right to a recent decision. So I hope you understood the principles of natural justice. A lot of prelims and static information coming. Due process of law. Then we did principles of justice. We did Article 142, and one more thing we did suo motu. These are four things which we have done by now. Now Supreme Court is saying mandatory prior notice. If you want to demolish someone's house, you need to send him a notice. Provide detailed 15 days specifying unauthorized construction and reason for demolition, because the states have taken that this was an unauthorized house and they have not taken the permission, created a house or made a house. So that is why they did the demolition. Now you have to send a notice to them. Okay. Next is opportunity to contest. Occupants must be given a fair chance to challenge the notice. I have already explained to you, if you send a notice, then you also need to hear the other side. So again, audi alteram partem, hear the other side. So again, if you see hear the other side, the first principle being asked here, opportunity to contest. The other side also can challenge your notice. Next. Reasoned order, final demolition order must include clear and logical justification that this is the final order and you have heard from the other side and this is the decision you have been. So it should be, there should be a logical conclusion to it and it should be very clear. Next is videography requirement. Demolition must be videographed to maintain transparency, that if there the block was A that was broken and the video has been made, so that in future if there was any kind of discrepancy, that thing can be brought to the court. Okay, it can be brought to the court, and the judiciary can see the viability of it. Was it correct, was it not correct, and whatever be the scenario. Accountability measure. Violation will lead to, this is a wonderful point given by Supreme Court, violation will be led to contempt action. So if you have taken an action and you did not follow this process, you just did on your whims and fancies and because might is right, then contempt actions would be taken, prosecution officials can be taken, and personal liability for restitution. So what is personal liability for restitution? For example, I am an officer or I am representing the government and I have demolished someone's house. Later on we get to know that, the orders which I was following, or the orders which came to me, or whatever XYZ, that this house should be demolished, and later on we get the evidence that the decision which I was taken was wrong and there was no land encroachment and everything in that house was correct. Then the government, or for that matter the personal liability of that individual will come, that restitution, that you will have to pay that money back to him or create that house, whatever the court will decide. So restitution, so that means it is this particular decision is putting the pressure on the state to prove that this is a land encroachment, or there is some kind of discrepancy in this house structure. So these directives do not apply to encroachment on public property or court related order demolitions, that are separate. Now let's move to this. So constitutional legal principles have been emphasized. First is rule of law. Rule of law has to be followed, that is due process of law. Due process of law has to be followed. Presumption of innocence, until unless you have proven that this particular person he is the offender, till that time prove innocent until proven guilty by a court of law would be followed. The accused individuals are innocent until proven guilty. If he is proven guilty, then you can take the decision. Separation of power, this is a very major point which was said by the Supreme Court. Judiciary has the authority to tell this is guilty or not. State does not have. We have three departments. Now you have three basic department or three basic structures. You have your legislature, you've got your executive, and you've got judiciary. Now someone is guilty or someone is not guilty, who will decide it? Judiciary will decide it, and that is the final statement given by the Supreme Court on this. Okay. Please everyone do like share the session, and do also share your comment. What do you feel? What is your opinion? Do you think the Supreme Court has done right on this? That maybe there were discrepancies, maybe there were also people who made discrepancy in creating their land and everything, or what do you think, that the government was targeting some specific community, or they were targeting, for that matter, Muslim community, or what is your take into it? So because this is exactly said by Supreme Court, we'll come to that. So protection of fundamental rights, arbitrary demolition infringes on the right to shelter and dignity under Article 21. So right to shelter and dignity, on this Supreme Court has given very important statements, that a house is very important for people. You cannot just take someone's house, because they can become destitute, they will not have food, shelter. House is a very important thing. Parents or families, husband, wife, they can come on road if you demolish someone. So state needs to think about it. Okay. So you also share your comments in the comment section. What do you think about it? So judgment addresses the devastating consequences, very important, devastating. So humanitarian concerns, Supreme Court is saying that state needs to take care of its people, and that is what we read. When it comes to fundamental rights, it is individualistic in nature. When we talk about DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, it talks about what state can do for the larger community. So when you talk about community, the state needs to think about community as a whole. Okay. So it says that families will be rendered homeless and destitute when they will not have food, they will not have shelter, and that without being involved in any crime. Maybe someone is involved, but you need to see that who has been responsible for it, and then a correct decision needs to be made. Violation of public trust. Now, arbitrary actions taken by people, what will happen at a large in that community? For example, if you are targeting one particular community or more actions are oriented toward one specific community, that community will lose confidence on that government or on that particular political party which has come in the government. That will start happening, and it will start questioning the distrust. It will start putting distrust in the governance, questioning the governance of that particular state government. Selective targeting. See, that is why exactly I told Supreme Court has said, and that is why I took the examples of Muslims here. Court noted instances of malified intent where specific properties were targeted while others in similar conditions were ignored, raising question of discrimination. And there are multiple videos which we have seen on YouTube, and when the houses were demolished, and many people from communities are saying, see, I am not trying to say that community is good or this community is good. I am just trying to say what Supreme Court is telling, that there cannot be malified intent. So if A community is bad and similarly B community people have done the same thing, both should be questioned, and both should be, if proven guilty, action needs to be taken. This is exactly what Supreme Court is saying. Okay, homes as symbols of stability. Houses represent not just property but hopes. This is again state, Supreme Court is asking, see, humanitarian concerns and homes as symbols of stability, that when you are breaking or demolishing a house, you need to think about all these actions also. Okay, houses represent not just property but hope, security and dignity. Their destruction, severe emotional and social consequences, not only on that family but that house which belongs in particular community and society. You pass a larger message that how the state government is functioning and how state government is thinking about it. If you are taking a rational decision and working rationally, that all illegal houses or illegal property which has been taken, and then you are holistically or comprehensively targeting everyone, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is, then the message will go something else. But if you are targeting some specific houses, the message would be something else. It will start putting distrust in the governance. Okay. Now, criticism of state action. So, Supreme Court criticized the state for bypassing the legal process, delivering collective punishment. Again, the same thing, due process of law was not followed, principles of natural justice was not followed. See, this is the statements given by the Supreme Court. Court emphasized power comes with responsibility to act justly and fairly. Again, the words. So, lot of important polity terms have come, and wonderful UPSC mains question can be created out of it. The prelims part, the static part we have already covered, but a good question can come from the governance point of view and how judiciary is seeing this particular matter, when it's talking about justly and fairly, and it is also talking about responsibility. There's a wonderful line of, everybody has heard of it, with big power comes big responsibility, something on those lines. Supreme Court is saying, not exactly the Spider-Man line, but power comes with the responsibility to act justly and fairly. That is what they're asking state to do. The court verdict strengthens institutional accountability. And what is the institutional accountability? State accountability. State needs to be accountable, and that means states will have to prove. The burden of proof on the state to demonstrate that demolitions are not punitive but follow the due legal procedures, that they have been following legal procedure and they have done everything right, and they have to prove it in the court if the need arises that everything was followed and it was not a punitive action, it was not a revenge action, it was not that they decided themselves. So that is what exactly they are talking about. Okay, it aims to balance state authority with the protection of individual rights. Wonderful. And here comes your UPSC mains question. UPSC main questions entering the game. The decision aims to balance state authority with protection of individual right, upheld democratic principles. Explain, elucidate. One question ready for your examination. Now, I have also added one question. Supreme Court judgment on the bulldozer culture highlights the interplay between governance and the rule of law, discuss the significance in ensuring justice and accountability in public administration. So, wonderful news is there, a good decision by Supreme Court. You can use lot of data from PDF link is available in description. So, let's go to the next news. This is inaugural Indian Ocean dialogue between US India to be held today. So inaugural US-India Ocean Dialogue scheduled for November 14, 2024. That is today, November 14th, our today's Daily Decode. So obviously when the Trump presidency comes, Trump is the elected president, so he would be taking over the official charge in January 2025. But if you've been following news, you must have seen from Tulsi Gabbard to Vivek Ramaswamy, then Elon Musk, both of them have been given DOGE, that is Department of Government Efficiency, in which Elon Musk has said that America spends around $6.1 trillion and he can cut around $2 trillion out of it and make the government departments very efficient. Let's see what he will do. So Trump is basically selecting the important people who would be part of his cabinet and who would be decision makers, and the people who have been selected, most of them are loyalist and they are very trustworthy to Donald Trump. Some of them even are not qualified for those positions, but because they have been very loyalist and loyal to Trump, they have been given those positions. And in that context, if I talk about the people you are selecting, it also gives you a thought process what would be Donald Trump doing in the coming years. So just to giving an additional point and then coming back to this news, most of the people who have been selected in his cabinet till now or who would be heading the major departments are highly anti-China in nature, and they all support lot of tariffs and trade barriers against China. So the days for China are not good, and that is why China is trying to cement its position with India and many other countries, so that if the trade barriers come, it can do its import export businesses, or its since it's one of the biggest manufacturing giant of the world, if the American markets are closing because America is saying that it would be putting 60% tariffs on it, so the American market might get close to it. So it is cementing its relationship with many Southeast Asian, India and other countries, so that, and that is why you see a change in Chinese policy also and Chinese rhetoric also, and what China is saying, it's very sweet today, but you should never trust the Chinese dragons. Okay. So the India and United States will hold the inaugural US-India and Ocean Dialogue, and as per my analysis and even as per the analysis of this article, with Trump coming, this will become even stronger in the coming time. So to deepen their cooperation in the Indian Ocean region, and obviously Indian Ocean region is very important, Indo-Pacific is also very important. If you talk about Quad, it focuses on India-Pacific, and which is the country they are targeting. They are officially never take the name of China, but they want to they are basically trying, see, China is the one which can control the sea lanes of communication from Malacca to different areas. So that way they know that China is the biggest threat. When you take the South China Sea or the Indo-Pacific, China is the threat. Australia is getting nuclear submarines under the AUKUS for what? To counter the threat of China. So they might not say China, but China is the threat. So the dialogue aims to promote security and prosperity across Indo-Pacific region. So security against who? China, no doubt about it. Prosperity, if China is controlled, prosperity. So since most of this trade happens through these sea lanes of communication or sea routes, if China, we are able to control and tame the dragon, then this trade can happen very smoothly, which will lead to prosperity. Other things which are related, if the Russia-Ukraine war comes to an end, and most importantly Israel-Hamas war also comes to an end, then people will start focusing, putting more money in business stabilization, which would be good for global economy. Further, the focus will be on expanding bilateral cooperation in ISET. What is ISET? ISET is initiative on critical and emerging technologies. This started when Barack Obama came to India, and from that perspective it has gone leap bounds, and good things are happening in this particular innovation and production thought process. Okay, so dialogue will involve Indian counterparts to discuss bilateral and multilateral measures. With the coming of Donald Trump, this will only become even stronger. So key US participant, US Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell would be there. Principal Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner would be there. When you talk about ISET, that is initiative on critical and emerging technologies, two important people would be there, because when ISET initiative was started, it was asked that the national security councils would be taking forward from India and the American side when Barack Obama was in India. And when it comes to ICT, since national security councils are involved, so therefore National Security Advisor of India, that is Ajit Doval, and Jack Sullivan, the National Security Advisor of America, would be taking it forward, focusing on high technology cooperation, including critical and emerging tech. So the dialogue builds on long-standing cooperation, as I told you, in the US in the Indo-Pacific. It was in January 2015 during the President Barack Obama visit to India, joint strategic vision on Asia Pacific and Indian Ocean region. Asia Pacific, Indian Ocean region. Please put your brains and think about it, which country they are talking about. When they talk about security in Indo-Pacific or Asia region, tell me which country is a threat. Russia is not the threat here. If you go through the Germany, I'm talking about Europe's national security strategy, America national security strategy. Number one threat is not Russia. Number one threat is China. They know it. It's a very different case that the Americans are currently engaged in the Israel and the Russia-Ukraine war. But given a chance, they know. If you see Trump policy, he knows very well which is the country which they need to tame or control. That is the dragons. Okay. So in this context, Quad has launched the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Initiative. So again, maritime domain awareness, maritime, submarine, sea, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Indo-Pacific. That is why you see so many fleets of Americans coming in this. That is why you see India is making so many submarines, buying so many submarines, indigenous submarines. Which is the country they need to control? China. That is why maritime domain awareness. So dialogue complements broader multilateral efforts, ensuring strategic alignment and addressing regional challenges. Regional means China. Strategic alignment, that Quad coming. What is Quad? India, Australia, Japan and America. Then you've got Squad. So if you replace India with Philippines and the rest the three countries, US, Japan and Australia and Philippines, that is Squad. Now you're also talking about Quad plus adding more members, so that becomes comprehensive. And if China in future, their economy again goes up and it again tries to, control the South China Sea, they're already doing it, through the artificial islands. And though their economy is currently tanking right now, so currently, Dragon is not so much active which it used to be compared to the previous years, and that is why they are putting less money in BRI. But again, if you see the example of Taiwan, China is very aggressive, and recently China also showcased its Chengdu, I think it's J-35, the new aircraft they had, which they are saying it is even better than the F-35, and Sukhoi also was there, Sukhoi of Russia. And Russia and Chinese relationship is the bonding very much better, and they have something called no limits friendship. So these are all the scenarios which the Americans are also thinking about. So again, strategic alignment needs to be there. So what is Indian Ocean Dialogue? So this is a flagship initiative of Indian Ocean Rim Association countries. So what is Indian Ocean Rim countries? So it is an international body comprising the coastal countries that border the Indian Ocean. Africa, Mozambique, Madagascar, South Africa, Mauritius, Seychelles, Sri Lanka, Oman, UAE, Yemen, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Singapore. But please see, Pakistan is not part of it. India has made sure that Pakistan does not enter this. So a question can come, is Pakistan part of IORA, Indian Ocean Rim countries? But it is not. Okay, Indian Ocean Rim Association, I beg your pardon. So it is not part of Indian Ocean Rim Association. Member states works on various initiatives, trade, investment and sustainable development. So under IORA, the dialogue part where the dialogue happens, that is called Indian Ocean Dialogue. Let's talk about ISET also now. I'll complete the ISET also. Okay. So announced by India and US in May 2022, was officially launched in January 2023 and is being run by National Security Council of both countries. That I already covered, and that is why NSA Doval is there and Jack Sullivan of America is there. And there are 6 areas of cooperation, which includes critical and emerging technologies, AI, quantum computers, quantum computing and semiconductors and wireless telecommunication. So what ISET is do, first of all, India will give critical technology to Americans and would be expecting that Washington would do. And if ISET is successful, what they will do is that they will expand this co-development and co-production of these 6 areas of cooperation on critical and emerging technology from India, US to Quad, and after Quad it would be given to NATO, then Europe and then the rest of the world. So this is basically the mandate of ISET. So there is a prelims question related to it. So dialogue aims to promote maritime prosperity across, correct. ISET aims to promote collaboration in critical and emerging technology, correct. IOD dialogue is part of Quad. No, IOD dialogue is not part of Quad. So this is not part, Indian Ocean Dialogue is not, that is part of IORA. Okay, Quad is separate. For Quad you have something called, which we just discussed, that Indo-Pacific Quad initiatives such as the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness are separate and not directly related to IOD. Okay, though there are discussions about it. Let's go to the next news, that is India middle class tightens belt hit by food inflation. So things are not looking good economically in terms of the middle class. So Indian middle class, if you see, it has been squeezed, and basically the inflation is very high, food inflation is high, retail inflation is high, and the urban class, how the economy is seeing, or how the experts are seeing, is that the urban class has stopped buying FMCG goods. So FMCG goods are fast moving consumer goods which you get at superstores, and what urban class is doing is that initially they were going to, you know, fancy restaurants and good places to eat. Now they are looking for cheaper options. So this is saying the urban class, which used to spend a lot on FMCG goods, it has reduced. So middle class, which constitute a key economic and political demographic, is facing significant strain to persistently high food inflation. On Sunday, I think Sunday also an article came on this, Sunday or Saturday, not Sunday, yesterday it came, because yesterday the Daily Decode didn't happen, I was traveling. So urban consumption, a major driver of post-pandemic economic growth, when the growth went even over 8%, but that was because of the pent-up demand during the COVID years. So obviously it had to come down, but the major problem is coming, it is not even able to revive. So it has slowed sharply over the past few months, posing challenges to India's economic projection and long-term growth narrative. So this is not a good news economically for India. So I hope you've understood. So a comment has come, state must follow the due process, bulldozer justice is jungle raj or complete dictatorship. Okay, so obviously the student wants to say that the due process of law has to be followed, legal process has to be followed, principles of natural justice has to be followed. Please everyone, whoever is in the class, please do share your comments. What do you think about middle class? Do you think inflation has gone high? Is it affecting your families? What do you think about the initiative on India US? Please share, please put comments. Okay, that is what we are here for. Okay, that is the entire intent of it. Please put your comments, please share your views. What do you think about it? Because more we share, more you will learn. So put your views. Okay, I'll take your comments also. Okay. So moving forward in this, then urban consumption decline. Now this is the major problem. Cookies, fast food, this is what we call FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. So spending on these cookies, fast food, Maggi and all these things, that has reduced considerably. Urban consumption hit a 2-year low. Middle class, a critical segment of FMCG firms, appear to be shrinking. This is not said by me, these are Nestle experts, and Nestle companies top heads are saying this. And FMCG and consumer goods, even people from Citibank indices are telling this. Nifty FMCG index, FMCG is fast moving consumer index, which shows how it is going. It's showing fell by 13%. Out of 15 FMCG firms, only one was able to report some growth. So 14 of them are not doing well. 14 out of 15, only one doing well. Food inflation above 8%. Because of weather shocks, elevation of price like vegetables and cereal. Retail inflation, very high. Inflation is, you know, skyrocketing. It is crossing everywhere. You know, breaking the ceiling. So breaking the ceiling not in positive way, in negative way. So with food prices rising by 10.9%, in almost 11% of food inflation. Wage growth stagnation. This is an important problem. If you remember, we did something called Nomura analysis sometime back in Daily Decodes. So he had said that, see, inflation goes up is fine, but your salary should also increase. The problem in India is happening, the inflation is going up, but the salary is not increasing. So I beg your pardon. So wages are not going up, only inflation is going up. If wages and salary, you know, if the wages oblique salary starts increasing in tandem or in parallel to inflation, at least there would be some kind of relief. So wages are low, inflation is very high. So for listed firms, so if you see inflation adjusted wages, so wages as per the inflation grew only by 2% in 2024. This is very low when the last 10-year average is 4.4%. So if you go from 2013 to 2023, 2013 to 2023, it used to grow by 4.4%. Now in 2024, it has come down to 2%. So again, wages are not increasing, inflation is increases again, not good for Indian economy. Decline savings and loan constraint. Urban households are experiencing tighter personal loans since loans are not available, savings are less, and hence the spending is also very less. Change in spending patterns, I've already told you, they are substituting branded products like tea and hair with cheaper unbranded alternatives. Dining out is very less, because when you go dine out, a simple bill will come for 500,000, 2,000 rupees. Though they are not going out, they are looking for friendly deals over high priced menus. So they are looking for coupons, they are looking for discounts. Fast food chains, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and all these, which you see at metro station or in malls, they are also saying that the customer coming to their shops or their restaurants are reducing. Festival season sales slow down compared to 2023. So these are the figures which are coming. But on the other hand, RBI estimates 7.2% GDP growth. See again, GDP growth does not always show you what is happening in inflation, because when I talk about this GDP growth rate, RBI is banking a lot on rural area, because rural growth rate is very good. It's the problem with the urban growth rate, which is currently down. Okay. So there is a continued growth in smaller cities and rural areas, contrasting with urban slowdown. So higher government initiative in rural infrastructure could stimulate the private consumption. So this is what is coming. So let's see if the things improve. But currently market is very pessimistic, specifically to the FMCG and urban market. Now let's move to the today's editorial, that is related to the perfect cocktail of layered discrimination. This is related to delimitation. Okay, so first of all, let us understand what is delimitation. In very simple words, delimitation will tell you what are the number of Lok Sabha seats as per the population of a state. This is me simplifying it. Now let's understand it in a little detail. It means the process, the fixing number of seats and boundaries also of territorial constituencies in each state for Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly. So how many Lok Sabha seats UP has? Today UP has around 80, Bihar is 40. So if the population is increasing, in terms of population, proportion would be taken on the basis of votes and the population, and seats would be given. Generally a state which has a higher population, it tends to have more seats in Lok Sabha. If it has more seats in Lok Sabha, then it would be dominating the Indian political structure also, because more politicians would be coming, and hence they become very dominant in form, and it might lead to more favoring policies to that particular state or that particular arena or that particular area of the country. Okay, moving forward, it is performed by delimitation commission, so it has to be set up after every census. That is what exactly Article 82 also tells. So constitution mandates allocation of seats in Lok Sabha should be based on population of each state, so that the ratio of seats to population is as close as possible of being equal across all states. So the value of a vote, so basically each person's vote carries roughly the same weight across states. So that is why they follow this delimitation exercise and do it. Now what's the problem in this particular part? If you see, it is based on the population of each state, so that the ratio of seats to population, it is based on population. So if a state's population is higher or it is increasing, they tend to have more seats in Lok Sabha or the legislative assemblies also. And that is where the article talks about perfect cocktail of layered discrimination, the delimitation debate in India. That is where the problem has started. Because if this happens, the North Indian states, they will have more seats. Already they dominate the Indian political structure or the architecture, and the South states, which have actually controlled population, they would be disenfranchising. They will not get in incentivized. They should be incentivizing, but rather they would be paying for it, because they have been able to control the population, and they will have less seats in Lok Sabha compared to the North seats. And since in North, the Hindi heartland, the BJP government, they have a majority stake or they are more popular there, the chances of them coming in power again and again would be very high. This is the major crux of the article. Let's dig deeper into it. So delimitation is contentious and long delayed process because 2026 is coming and Atal Bihari Vajpayee had freezed, the late Prime Minister of India had freezed till 2026. So 2026 the government will have to take a decision what they want to do for delimitation, because Modi government is interested in doing the delimitation exercise before the 2029 elections, and that is why this debate has started again. So it's a critical issue in Indian political and federal landscape as the freeze on recalibration of Lok Sabha seats lapses in 2026 again. So delimitation exercise has to be done. India faces the challenge of balancing formal equality in voting and federalism, specifically balancing the equality between north, southern or west and east, all these states. Otherwise, it will lead to inequality. It will exacerbate existing inequalities, the seats distribution, potentially altering India's federal character and creating new layers of discrimination. Okay. So Article 82 requires recalibration, we have done. So historical context, last delimitation occurred based on 1971 census, and after that no delimitation exercise has been done on the Lok Sabha. So 1976, Indira Gandhi government suspended delimitation for 25 years, saying that the south states have controlled population and if a delimitation happens right now, it would be disincentivizing them. Rather, it would be penalizing the states successful in population control. Majority of them were southern states. 2001, again the decision came against Vajpayee government. So they also extended the freeze for another 25 years. So 2001 plus 25 years, 2026, and that is why again this article, what will happen in 2026. It has biased thing, one, economic growth would decrease, but the other side would be in good sense of human health by not consuming fast food. Yes, MK Pandu, it's wonderful thought. Yes, there's also one thought that a lot of urban people are not buying these Maggie and Coke, Coke and all these thumbs up and all. They're shifting to healthy things. But when it comes to healthy things, if the growth and the buying healthy things or organic things should also increase, but that is also not seen in the economy. Let's see if that comes in future. Okay, but your point is very valid. If I mean to say, going for alternatives is good, but that is a very different scenario that they want to buy, but they don't have money to buy. That is, I think, majorly the news is talking about. So BJP government has hinted resuming delimitation before 2029 elections, and very well also, if they do the delimitation exercise before 2029, as per the census, majority of the North Indian states, they will have more constituencies, more seats in Lok Sabha, and if they have more and BJP dominates these states, chances of them coming back in power would be highest. This is what the major contention of the southern states against it. Now let's come to some facts and numbers. Now southern states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, their TFR is only 1.6 to 1.8. What is TFR? TFR is total fertility rate. It basically means average number of children a woman gives during her reproductive years. So since their TFR is only 1.6 to 1.8, below the replacement level of 2.1. So replacement level is that if your replacement level is 2.1, your population would be balanced. It would continue. It will not come down. Now come to this, Hindi speaking states, Bihar, UP, Madhya Pradesh, they have a TFR of 3.5, which is even higher than the replacement rate of 2.1, which means that their population will not only stabilize, it's increasing. If it is increasing, they will get more seats in Lok Sabha. So I've explained you what is TFR and replacement level of 2.1. If you want to understand it even in more detail, the PDF will help you. So impact on representation, now see, if the delimitation happens, reduces southern states Lok Sabha seats from 25% to 17%. It is already very less, but from 25% it will come to 17%. Increases seats for Hindi speaking states from 40 to 60%. So it's in a very simple way, if you win the Hindi speaking states, you will become the prime minister or your party will come to the power. I mean to say, absolutely, if they are able to get these 60%, they are winning. Okay, I think 60% they should win. They might need some more numbers, but they should win. Let me. They would win easily. I was just I was just confirming if my maths is not going, and this also tell me please keep doing your CSAT. So now if you see the shifts political dominance to Hindi heartland favoring BJP and marginalized southern states. So this can also lead to the policies which would be favoring more northern or the Hindi belt states. And if you see, this is the number of today. If you combine UP, Bihar, MP, Rajasthan, it is already 174 Lok Sabha seats. If they increase further the delimitation, inequality will further increase because this 174 number will go higher. So if you are able to get the seats in the northern India, you are in the par. So again, that's the major problem which is coming. Okay, so moving further into this, financial disparities. Now the other problem is that southern states, they contribute more in taxes, more in GDP. So the contribution from GDP and tax point of view of the southern states are higher to the center. But in terms of what they are getting back from center in terms of aid, loans or money, they have smaller share of funds. So they disproportionately to the GDP and tax revenues adding to center, but they are getting less value. On the other hand, if you see Bihar and UP, they receive 250 to 350% of their contribution in taxes. They contribute less, but they get more funds from the center. Again, 120 seats, 80 plus 40, 80 UP, 40 Bihar, 120 seats. That also tells you, like, if you see this time in election, how much funds Bihar got. For that matter, even Andhra got it because that's a different scenario supporting the current NDA government. But in the context is that you need to understand the dominance of the seats. 16th Finance Commission is saying that if you adopt the 2011 census, it will further increase the inequality specifically in fund devolution and worsening the financial inequalities with states. And I had also covered this article, a picture of growing economic divide in India, growing economic divide and its impact on federalism. This I had covered on 30th October, talking about this same problem, that southern states, they are giving more in terms of tax and revenues but getting very less things. So economic advisory, you can also go through this particular news. So erosion of federal balance. Now India's unique federal structure is based on ethno-linguistic risk. Disproportionate rise in Hindi speaking states would undermine the voices of non-Hindi states, and this will create a wedge, this will create a difference between northern states and southern states. And already there are lot of problem which we see because of language and everything. This will further divide and people will start feeling alienate to each other. So a recalibration seats will double the stakeholder index I beg your pardon, index for Bihar and Madhya Pradesh, while reducing 30 to 40% for states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So what will happen? This will lead to this create a scenario where regions contributing economically more, they will reap less benefits. So what do you think? The divide between the northern part of India and the southern part of India would increase. So something needs to be done against this. So proposed solution can be extend the freeze, that again, since it's getting over in 2026, so what Indira Gandhi did, what Atal Bihari Vajpayee did, so the Modi government can also do it for 25 years, or it can permanently freeze redistribution, that it does not happen. Then balance delimitation with decentralization, that most of the subjects which are in concurrent list, they need to be added in state list, and union just focuses on defense, external affairs, currency with the union. I don't think so this is happening. Or if you see our constitution, it is already hinged towards more in the federal structure, more hinged towards the centers. This will not happen. This, I think the first option might happen, but this is very difficult. Proportional increase in state, this is also a good thing, that you increase, you stick to the current the current distribution of seats, but you increase number of seats proportionately in every state so that more representation from states can happen. So this is some solution, and ethno-linguistic balance should be there between, specifically between the northern and the southern states, and it should not become Hindi Majortarian states. Economic and political disparities, specifically you need to do the delimitation before. If you want to do delimitation exercise, you need to address the financial inequalities which are existing between the southern and northern states, when southern states are contributing so much but getting very less for it, and revenue contribution and population heavy state. Historical responsibility, now India has been forged through this anti-imperialist struggle, so we should make sure this we are protected for majoritarianism and partisanship of between northern and southern states. So this also becomes a good UPSC mains questions. Okay. Now I've already added a question for you here. The issue of delimitation in India raises significant challenges for federal structure. You can go through this question and answer it. Okay. Wonderful news this was, wonderful article. In tidbits you have Harvey, that is Samantha Harvey. She's got the Booker Prize 2024 for her slim novel Orbital. And Orbital is about the astronauts which are in international space station. What is their life? They are seeing 16 sunrises and sunsets and how it reflects on life in the blue planet. So she's got. Next is the Tri-Services Defense Special Space Agency. They had a tabletop exercise. Tabletop exercise is like a discussion exercise. People sit in rooms or and they discuss on various matters, or they have small groups also for particular agendas. So Antariksh Abhiyan 2024 they had, which focused on strategic readiness of Indian armed forces in domain of space warfare. Okay, and with this we complete today's news. In the extra mile, you can do this particular article. In this early social media use among children raises concerns. So Australians have taken some step over it. So you can go through this news, and with this we wrap up today's news also. Thank you very much for coming and joining. In the initial part we had a little bit of technical issues. We have completed the lecture, and we'll meet tomorrow at the same time 7 p.m. and please do share all these lecture with your friends and everyone. And we are doing a lot of lecture. There are a series of ICANN series of Sapna ma'am is going on. Similarly, there are lectures of various faculties of Insights IAS which have done a podcast. Please go through them. And recently we also did a toppers discussion where they had given guidance to many students. So please go through all of them. The PDF of this lecture is available in the description. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you very much and Jai Hind.